So, Lianna, Father's Day coming up, but it can be a difficult time for many of us.
It can.
Yes, it can. So, as we speak now, we're a week away from Father's Day, 2021, and given all the issues surrounding things like coronavirus and public health in general, a lot of us that are listening to the program may be experiencing Father's Day this year for the first time without their dad in their lives.
Absolutely. And also they don't have their usual support networks because we can't reach out and kind of physically hold each other up like we would. But however it makes you feel, it's really, really important that you have time to allow your sadness to be felt, because sometimes we don't allow ourselves that luxury of really feeling the pain of our loss. And I think it's always a good thing to perhaps even have an hour that you just share with your dad, just between you and your dad, whether you would look at photographs, going back over your life with him, or even writing him a letter. And just imagine if you could have one more conversation with him. What would you ask him? What would you tell him? You could put that in a letter to him. Just having some quality time for your dad, which brings you into like a spiritual communion with him, or do something he enjoyed, whether he liked mowing the lawn. Do things that kind of make you feel close to him. But it's really more important, more so with the coronavirus, that we actually remember to reach out with each other. And even though we can't reach out to each other physically, we can with our words and our love and sharing memories, because that brings people closer to us. When we talk about them, we remember them. And it's really difficult, but try not to focus on the loss and the gap, because if you do that, you neglect all the life that you've shared with them. So allow the sadness, but also allow the happiness of the memories to shine through.
Do you think enough fuss is made of Father's Day when you compare it with Mother's Day?
I think it just creeps up on us.
Yeah, Mother's Day, it's like, right, okay, bunch of flowers, breakfast in bed. I'll probably get complaints about this, but do a housework for her on that Sunday just to go to the top. Father's Day doesn't seem to have that, and I'm not saying that's necessarily a good or a bad thing, but
I agree with you, because there's such a build up for Mother's Day, and Father's Day just seems to happen. And whether it's because men traditionally don't do all the, the moonlight and roses stuff, and they're like the hunter-gatherers of yesteryear, whether it's that image that men still have, that hard image, I don't know. But I feel that we are breaking down barriers, and I think that men are becoming a little bit more emotional and seem to express their emotions. And I think we will see this change over the years. But yeah, it certainly seems to creep up, whereas Mother's Day has a much bigger build up.
So you're able to provide sort of help and advice on 5 sort of key areas for dealing with coping with Father's Day at this time of year. I'm going to go through the list of bullet points that I have with you, if you don't mind. First of all, tips to deal with grief on Father's Day.
What's happened there? So tips to deal with grief is first and foremost, let it be okay to be sad, and if you want to have a cry because you miss someone, cry. There is nothing wrong with feeling your pain. That is really important. Very often, the minute we feel sadness, we think there's something wrong with us. Very natural expression of how we feel. That is fine. And that's a really important one. Also, reach out to family members and people who've shared your dad's life, and share your favourite memories, and allow each other to have their own individual memory, rather than, well, I didn't feel that, I had this. Just accept what each other says and what each other feels, and try and remember the life rather than the gap that's left, because sometimes we block ourselves from enjoying that whole life of memories because we become consumed with the sadness. And it's not fair. Why did it have to happen to Dad, and why has it happened to me, and somebody else's dad's still living? It's just to accept that life does not always work out the way we planned, and it's having this acceptance of when something bad does happen to us, allow it to be experienced, but don't stop enjoying the memories and doing things that make you feel closer to the people you've lost.
And what about help to deal with the feelings of missing your father on Father's Day?
It's finding what makes you feel closer to him, and whether it's doing something that your dad loved, whether he had a hobby or he liked gardening, go and spend an hour in the garden, even in the rain. You know, think of the things that your dad loved. If you used to go walking with him or out for a drive, do these things. And yes, you may shed a tear, but you'll feel glad that you've had that time, because you are coming into communion with his spirit. You're directing your thoughts and you're giving him an energy.
Yeah, and there's other things you can help people with as well, such as helping children remember their dad on Father's Day if they've lost their father as well.
Absolutely, because there are so many different aspects of loss to experience, you know, at children, different ages. Something nice, of course, is to talk about them. You know, the names of the people we're lost are actually magic words, because if we use their names and we talk about them, it means that they were important, and they still are important in our lives. And especially with younger children, have a memory hour where they draw a picture for dad, where they look at photographs, that even make a scrapbook which you can add to each year, put photographs of the child's progress in the book, and that's a special book for that child to carry through life, and also to show their children. It's just keeping a thread going, because when somebody dies, on the day of the funeral, our physical relationship with them ends, but our emotional relationship with them continues until the day we die. So we have to adjust and start to do things that make us feel close to them, even though physically they aren't with us.
And there are coping strategies as well for the not so final things as death, but how to cope with it if you're estranged from your father at this time of year as well, if you feel you've been in a toxic relationship.
When somebody dies that we have had a toxic relationship with, people can be really surprised at the intensity of their feelings, and what they're actually grieving for is they're grieving for the opportunity to repair that relationship, but also they're grieving for a less than perfect relationship and wanting it to have been better. So it can be very, very overwhelming, the feelings of loss. But we have to remember, we can only be responsible for our half of any relationship. And if somebody has been less than a loving person to us, and we expect parents to be completely all loving, but you know, it's not a perfect world, and sometimes there are limits on people's capacity to show love. And you know, as children, we scream out and we want that recognition from our parents, but that is absolutely fine. We can only be responsible for our half of the relationship. We cannot wonder why people do what they do, why they don't do what we think they should, and we have to accept that we are different and people have different emotional capabilities.
And as well as joining us on the program this week, you are available to offer help and guidance to anybody who might be suffering at this time of year. Can you just give us your details, and we'll put those out as well?
Yes, of course I can. I can be emailed to Lianna, Lianna, at champgriefcare.co.uk. And I can also be contacted via champfunerals.com from our website, and also through our Champ Facebook page. I can have private messages received there.
Lianna Champ, a grief and bereavement expert, over 40 years experience. Thank you very much for joining us on the show this week.
Thank you very much indeed, Ben. Take care and all the best.